It's Music Top 10 time, 1978. Right, let's get straight to it. At number 10, Wavelength by Van Morrison. Particularly the first side of this album by Van Morrison is well, absolutely sensational. It punches a few heavy ones and it drives along at a fair old rate. The title track is one that you can really tap your feet to. Other good tracks on here are Hungry for Your Love and Take It Where You Find It. At number 9, surprising choice maybe for many, Parallel Lines by Blondie. Blondie had a score of hits from their third album, Parallel Lines, and I must admit, even to this day, when I hear One Way or Another, or Heart of Glass, or Hanging on the Telephone, I smile with glee at how I enjoyed listening to these tracks back when I was only 24 years of age. So they're at number 9, Blondie. At number 8 is Peter Gabriel, album 2. Very solid follow-up to his debut solo album, and On the Air is one that strikes with me, as does Home Sweet Home. At number 7, the debut album by The Only Ones. I love this band. They really seem to epitomize punk rock with an edge, a touch of class, and they struck me as the working class band made good. Pete Parrott, I loved his singing style, and who could ever forget the hit single Another Girl, Another Planet. But there's more than that on this album. Breaking Down and The Beast are two other highlights. At number 6 is Alive on Arrival by Steve Forbett. I fell in love with this album when I went to a party in Northampton. It was a sort of end of term type of party. I'd finished a placement as part of my social work training, and the other guys who were working at this intermediate treatment center had a party, and I went along, and we indulged in some of those naughty cigarettes. But I do remember listening to this album at least twice, and I fell in love with it. It Isn't Gonna Be This Way, Going Back to Laurel, You Cannot Win If You Do Not Play. Steve Forbett, a great singer. I can't understand why this man wasn't famous and well known by many. At number 5 is Adolescent Sex by Japan. David Sylvian and his band, they sprang out of the traps, and did they have some class. Their sound was very original. They were influenced by Roxy Music and also Lou Reed, and they had a glam rock look to them, but they could play, and the songs were extremely powerful and very, very interesting. Television, Suburban Love and Performance are the highlights on that album for me. At number 4 is Street Legal by Bob Dylan. Now, I have to say, early Dylan really, I never got to grips with. I think it was because of this folk image, and I steered clear of it. But as things developed in the 70s and we got to hear Blood on the Tracks and then Desire, Street Legal came along, and I was pretty hooked by it then. And I love this album. Baby Stop Crying, Is Your Love in Vain is a highlight. And Oh Senor, I like that sort of Latin taste to it. At number 3, All Mod Cons by The Jam. The Jam's first two albums were very punkish, and I didn't really get to grips with them, to be honest. It wasn't until album 3 came along, All Mod Cons, that I really sat down and realised what a talent Paul Weller was. And there's some storming stuff on this. At Midnight, The In Crowd, that's of course is still a favourite in Weller's set live. And the infamous Down in the Tube Station. I can hear it thumping out right now. So we're up to number 2 now, and this is the second album by Elvis Costello, and he added his attractions to this particular album, This Year's Model. I played this album to death from side 1, track 1 to I think side 2, track 6. Every track was a great song as far as I'm concerned, but to pick out a few, the Lipstick Vogue with Stewart's drumming, Little Triggers, a great ballad with Elvis Costello at his best, and of course the pop hit, the reggae influenced I Don't Want to Go to Chelsea with Stevie Neve on organ. So all it remains now is to tell you what my number 1 was for 1978. And for those that know me well, I'm sure you've already guessed it. Yes, it was Darkness on the Edge of Town by Bruce Springsteen. I had to buy a second copy of this because the first copy became so full of hisses through overplaying that I kept it as a memento but bought a fresh copy. The title track is awesome. I love Candy's Room. It's a really sad tale about a prostitute and racing in the street with the twin keyboards of Roy Bittan and Danny Federici are absolutely idyllic. So that's my top 10 from 1978.